So, it's my turn next, huh? It's a little weird to ask this so suddenly, but has anyone ever thought about wanting to die? Yoko? I'd rather not answer. If you don't want to answer, that means you've at least thought about it before then. You don't want to give a straight answer because it makes you feel guilty, right? Because taking your own life is treated as a terrible thing, both socially and spiritually. In Europe during the Middle Ages, if you took your own life, then the feudal lord would take all your possessions, and you couldn't be buried in the church cemetery either. Snuffing out the life that God gave you was a crime just as bad as killing someone else. Isn't it great, Yoko, that here in Japan they will still bury you properly if they find your body? But apparently, if you take your own life, it can take a while for your spirit to move on, so you best be ready for a fate worse than when you were alive. You often hear on ghost TV specials and such about how there are some spirits that don't know they're dead and move into the bodies of others, making them repeat what happened to them. Or others who are stuck in the one area and summon similar people to them. There are some couples who die together, like, let's be together on the other side. But very few can actually be together after death. In the end, taking your own life is only a momentary escape. Although there are some who see it in aesthetic ways, so I don't know what everyone thinks about it. But the story I'm about to tell you, at the very least, is related to this. It's a story I heard from one of my seniors. So his name is Inoue Shiro, and he was never able to hold down a job. But like me, he always targeted high-paying part-time jobs. So he was kind of my rival, I guess. I went to this amazing job the other day, he said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Have you ever heard of places that attract those wanting to die? For some reason, there seems to be no end to them. And people from all over visit these locations with the express purpose of dying. Like mammoth housing complexes full of tall apartment buildings or beautiful sightseeing spots. Or sharp cliffs, or even lakes where the moon reflects on the water's surface. There are all sorts of different locations. But the most famous has to be the Sea of Trees at the foot of Mount Fuji, right? Perhaps the most ominous place in all of Japan that you could fittingly call the Lost Forest. But the area isn't just full of trees. The ground is also made of hardened lava with magnetic forces inside, so compasses don't work so well either. But because numerous caves were formed when the lava floor hardened, it's harder than you might think to move through the forest. Sounds just like a lost forest, right? And every year they find somewhere between 30 to 40 bodies inside. And the part-time job Inoue-senpai spoke of was finding those bodies in the forest. Local law enforcement, firefighters, and students doing this as a part-time job would gather and comb the forest several times a year. Around 300 people would split into teams to search. But being a lost forest, well, it's dangerous for the people searching as well. And if they get lost, well... Apparently, the search party members bring with them a rope, which you might call their safety net, and proceed through the forest while calling out to each other. But still, if the leader falls into a hole or something, then it's all over. I wonder if those types of accidents really happen. Apparently, something like that happened to Inoue-senpai's group, and they had to spend the night there. And then, when things were getting bad and they were about to leave. He saw someone dressed in white walking through the trees. Well, it was just a glance, but that person then disappeared behind the trees. He thought maybe it was someone from another team, but he was curious about their white coat, so he spoke to their leader about it. It was always a possibility that maybe they came here to die, and if so, they had to do something about it. So, they entered the area where the person in the white coat had gone. And, for sure, between the greenery of the trees, they saw what looked like a white sleeve from a coat billowing. But in the end, they were unable to catch up to the person. Before long, they lost sight of them. And because the forest is dark even during the middle of the day, when the sun starts to set, it gets pitch black almost instantly. At times like that, even the search team members have to pull back, as it's too dangerous to navigate the forest with just torchlight on hand. Walking around the forest at night is just asking for trouble. And so, the search team members found a flat space between the trees and decided to spend the night there. And because they all had their life-saving equipment and plenty of food on hand, they weren't worried at all. They gathered some nearby dry branches, lit a fire, then all sat around it. The atmosphere changes when there's a warm light around, and after eating a simple meal, the team members finally rested. Then they took turns keeping watch while the others slept. Inoue-senpai took the first watch, but why do you think that is? He felt responsible. No doubt he felt a little responsible, just like you said. If I didn't tell them I saw a person in a white coat, then no doubt we'd be taking a hot bath right now and drinking some sake. He never said this out loud himself, but I think that was probably how he felt. It wasn't that he was pessimistic about their situation, but more guilty that he got the others involved. And he was unable to protect the person in the white coat as well. And these search team members, tired from walking around a mountain they weren't familiar with and not knowing what Inoue-senpai was feeling, slept like babies. Nobody snored and nobody ground their teeth. Some may have moved a little in their sleep, but everyone was otherwise strangely still, and all you could hear was the faint sound of their breathing, not even any insects. So it was a truly silent night. How long did he sit there for? Suddenly, the flames from the fire rose, and then disappeared. Everything went black. How annoying. Inoue-senpai felt around for a lighter, then lit a random branch he found. Before long, the flames grew bigger, and then went out again. This happened over and over, with the flames suddenly getting bigger and then immediately going out. Finding this strange, he tried lighting the fire again and again. Whenever the flame lights up, it looks white for a second. It reminds me of that white coat, he muttered at the time. As he stared at the flame with those strange thoughts, he ended up staying like that till morning. Morning. As the sun rose in the sky, he could see more and more of their surroundings. His eyes had gotten used to the darkness, so even just a little light meant he could see what was going on quite well. By that point, the fire had apparently returned to normal. But then, Inoue-senpai saw something that made him start. This is exactly how he described it. At first, a shoe fell, a terribly dirty, old shoe, and when I looked up, legs were dangling there. The shoe had fallen from that. It seemed someone got to their camping spot before they did, and they slept right beneath the body without even realizing it. Their screams tore through the forest in the early morning. They were rescued by the other search team members and were safely escorted out of the forest. During their search, they found 5 bodies, all of them men. That included the one Inoue-senpai's team found. Quite a bit of time had passed since the person's death, and he wasn't wearing a white coat, but it seemed another team found that person and helped them. That person in the white coat turned out to be a woman, and it seemed that while she was walking around the forest looking for a place to die, she fell into a hole and couldn't move. I still don't get what was going on with the fire. Maybe the person above us wanted us to notice them. And that was how he finished his story. What do you think, Yoko? It was scary. Stories that happen to people you know really are scary, huh? Oh, you don't know him. Right. Should I introduce you sometime? It's way better hearing it directly from the horse's mouth, no matter how good I am at telling it. That way is always much better. And that's not the only story I have involving him. I'd like to hear more then. Well, if you insist, then I'll oblige. This is a story that happened before he went to the Sea of Trees. At the time, he was working a normal job as a sports instructor, and his area of expertise was all marine sports. From windsurfing to water scooters, but he was the most skilled at scuba diving. He sometimes travelled overseas and went scuba diving there too. One day, Inoue-senpai got a phone call from someone he met on a trip. Hello? Is this Inoue-san? This is Nikaido. Yes, we met in Guam. It's been a while. The call went a little something like that. I'm not too far away. Do you want to go out for a drink? He apparently asked. He had no reason to refuse, so Inoue-senpai went out to drink with him. I called you out, so food and drinks are on me today, Nikaido-san said, ordering some lavish food and expensive sake for them. And he treated Inoue-senpai to all sorts of things, so he had to be rich, right? At first, Inoue-senpai was wary, but Nikaido-san was skilled at both spending and conversing, so he soon let his guard down, and for a while, they simply chatted about this and that. So, would you like to go diving again sometime? We don't even have to leave the country, but I found this amazing spot. That sounds great. Take me with you, he said, giving a quick and easy okay. Yeah? Well then, let's not waste any time. And so they decided to go that very same weekend. When the weekend arrived, Nikaido-san loaded everything into the car and they hit the highway, heading towards their diving spot. And a short while later, Inoue-senpai noticed something odd. The scenery outside morphed into the countryside, nothing but mountains and rice fields. They got off the highway and started driving up a mountain. Normally, if you're going diving, you go to the ocean, right? But they were surrounded by mountains, and he couldn't see water anywhere, so he naturally found it rather odd. Finally, as they approached a winding road with sudden curves, he started to realize where they were going. They arrived at a waterfall, an area famous for the color of its autumn leaves. It was also as famous as the Sea of Trees for people going there to die. This waterfall, bustling with tourists, became famous after an 18-year-old boy jumped there around the end of the Meiji era, and after that, around 200 people had thrown themselves from the waterfall. The number of people who jumped had gone down over the years, but each year there were apparently still 5 or 6 people who jumped. It was well known in magazines and on TV ghost specials and such, as a spot where you could take ghost photos. And if you had any sort of sixth sense, then apparently you could see countless spirits around the waterfall, and their overwhelming malice would give you goosebumps. If you're ever not feeling well or you're prone to being possessed, then it's a spot you must never go near. But the spot Nikaido-san said was great for diving was the basin of that waterfall. And being a location famous for people jumping, then there would no doubt be bodies down there, right? Normally, if someone jumped in front of others, then the rescue team would be called in. But most people do it when they won't be seen. And today was the day people searched for bodies, just like what happens at the Sea of Trees. And that was why he invited Inoue-senpai. By diving, he meant uncovering bodies in the basin. Nikaido-san was already in his wetsuit and life jacket and getting in the boat. It wasn't like Inoue-senpai was a coward, but he was easily influenced, and as he watched others around him get changed into their wetsuits and get into the water, he thought he had to do the same. But once he got in the water, while he couldn't scream out loud, he did so internally. Right in the area where the currents made a whirlpool, he saw what looked like a body spinning around. Looking closer, he could see what appeared to be human body parts, like hands and legs. How do you think he felt when he realized he was supposed to pull those out of the water? Excited. So you get excited if you see a body, huh? Are you into that sort of thing? I'm kidding. Don't get so angry. There were no such rumors about Inoue-senpai being into that sort of thing either. I think he was no doubt terrified. As he surfaced with a look of fear on his face, he took his snorkel off and begged, "Please, let me go home." The divers signaled to Nikaido-san in the boat, and he secretly whispered something to Inoue-senpai. "I don't care if you ignore the bodies, but there's a yellow bag down there. Can you get it for me?" "Eh? I'll reward you handsomely, so please, there's something very important in it." Apparently he looked restless and uncomfortable, like he was hiding a big secret. Sensing that, he got ready and dove into the water again. Doing his best not to get caught in the whirlpool or look at the body, he dove towards the bottom of the water. If you dive deep, then you'll find a world that light no longer reaches. And of course, he thought he'd never be able to dive that far, but then... Suddenly, he saw something yellow on the edge of his vision, and when he reached out for it, it was indeed a yellow bag. The item Nikaido-san was looking for hadn't fallen all the way to the bottom, but was instead sitting on a rocky area like a shelf, right beneath the waterfall. Inoue-senpai grabbed the bag tightly and slowly moved back towards the surface. When he got back, Most of the other people there had finished for the day, and Nikaido-san greeted him with a smile. He showed the yellow bag to him and then asked, "Is this what you're looking for?" "That's it! That's the bag I'm looking for! I'm so glad it's come back to me." Nikaido-san took the bag with tears in his eyes and rubbed his cheek against it. If the bag was that important, what do you think was in it? A key. A key. Why on earth would you say that? Well, maybe it was a key. After all, you can't go home without one. I don't know if there was a key in there, but there were various small things like a handkerchief, a diary, etc. And they were all Nikaido-san's deceased wife's belongings. When they came here to view the autumn leaves, his wife had an attack of anemia and fell down the waterfall. Although they found her body, it seemed her bag had fallen to the bottom, and nobody was able to find it. It was her favorite bag, so he wanted to get it back no matter the cost. Hearing that, Inoue-senpai was so moved that he even refused the money Nikaido-san tried to give him. Although, if he said he was going to give it to him, he should have just taken it, I say. But this Nikaido, don't you think he's a little sus? How can I put it? Like, did his wife really just happen to fall? I wonder what was written in her diary. And why did he whisper to Inoue-senpai about it? I just have a lot of questions about it, you know? Well, anyway, Inoue-senpai was pleased to have such a valuable experience. That's probably why he joined the search teams at the Sea of Trees. Maybe I'll join myself next year. Good luck. Thanks. With your support, I'll make sure to take part in the waterfall search as well. I did get my diving license after all, so there's no point unless I put it to use. Well, that's the end of my story. Let's move on to the next one.